Hi everyone, my name is, hi everyone, welcome to our second Diversability Unplugged virtual event. Diversability Unplugged, Dating and Relationships. My name is Whitney Bailey and I'm the head of content for Diversability, and I will be the moderator for tonight's event. I am a white woman with brown pixie style hair. I'm wearing glasses and I have brown eyes. I'm wearing a brown top. If this is your first time attending a Diversability event, Diversability is a community of people with disabilities and our allies on a mission to amplify disabled voices. Since this month is February, we thought what better topic to discuss than dating in relationships in relation to people with disabilities. So we've gathered a diverse group of panelists to share their experiences. We have Lolo Spencer, Drew Gurza, Nathan Todd, and Fatima. If at this time, if y'all want to introduce yourself and let the audience know your relationship status at the moment. Are you married, single, dating, or in a relationship? So who wants to go first? Nathan, you're the first one on my screen, so why don't you go?
All right. So yeah, I'm Nathan and my current relationship status is single and looking.
Drew.
Hi, my name is Drew Gurza. I'm a disability awareness consultant and the chief disability officer at Handy, a sex toy company formed by disabled people. And my disability status is, oh, nope, that's right. my relationship status is single, but also my disability status is multiple, I guess. So cool.
Good deal. Lolo, who you want to introduce?
No, that was so good. What's up, everyone? I am Lolo. I'm a disability lifestyle influencer, model, actress, and public speaker. I am single and letting the world and the universe attract the person destined to be in my life forever.
That's good. I got you. Fatima, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Fatima. My status is married. And also I am someone who loves vlogging to make an impact on the deaf community and teach ASL to the hearing world and show them a deaf perspective. In the deaf community, I advocate for access and working together.
Very awesome. Before we get into the topics, I want to just throw this out there that we will be doing a question and answer at the end of the event. So if you have any questions for the panelists as the conversation flows, go ahead and put them in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of the event. So like 3 categories. So we're gonna start with dating, and I've read and experienced it as a disabled person that a lot of disabled people do not start dating and putting themselves out there till later in life. And I know this to be true for myself because I didn't truly enter the dating scene till I was in my 20s. So I'm curious, at what age did each of you start dating?
How loosely do you want to define dating?
Like showing interest, like going going on actual dates, like forming relationships, I guess you could say. I know.
I think that makes sense. Go ahead, Drew.
I mean, I guess for me in queer gay male spaces, dating is very like, I guess I didn't date properly for a long time. I had a lot of hookups, and I had a lot of like one night stands and people that I never saw again. But I really didn't start. I knew I was queer by the time I was 16, but I didn't actually start activating that until I was about 19, 20.
Awesome. I'm gonna add to that at the end of this, but I'm gonna let the other panelists give their answers. So, does anyone want to jump in? Or...
Sure. I would say I didn't start actively dating until I got to college, so around like 19, 20 years old. And I kind of spent my entire 20s, you know, on dating apps constantly, and dating people here and there. I've done the hookups and the one night stands too, but I'm still cool with actually the people I've done. I'll see them again, but nonetheless, I just have fun in my 20s dating. I had fun with the apps. I didn't learn until later in my 20s not to take them as serious as I was in my earlier 20s. But my dating life was an exciting and interesting one in my 20s. But being in my 30s now, I'm taking it much more serious for sure.
What about you, Nathan? And then we'll get to Fatima.
Okay, yeah, this is Nathan. So I would say actively within my 20s, that's when I started taking dating more seriously. I remember high school, and I remember all these things happening in high school, and experiences of people telling me, and I think this is important for the audience, telling me like, hey, you look good. And I know Lolo's got a shirt about this. You look good for a person with a disability, or we face the stigma of like desexualization, like we're not seen as attractive characters. So I think that plays a role in when we start talking about getting into later dating, and I think that's okay. I really liked Lolo's response to what she's looking for now. I think she changed my I'm looking for what Lolo said. That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, not until my 20s is when I really got active in it.
What about you, Fatima? You're obviously married, so dating would seem to be kind of success for you. You reached the end goal.
Yes. So I didn't start dating until I was in my 20s. And then, I was really busy and focused on my schoolwork, studying, and dating was pushed into the back burner for me. I would socialize with friends and enjoy myself, have fun. Not so much mingle, but just like enjoy going out and eating, getting to know people. My friends, they started to introduce me to my husband maybe about, I would say the first guy who actually understood me completely, me being deaf and being hard of hearing, we both started chatting, and I did meet some deaf people, and it just didn't work out. They didn't match. So I didn't really pay much attention to it. And dating wasn't really a priority for me. I was more focused on studying. So I just kind of went with the flow. And then I met my husband through a friend. So that's my story.
That's awesome. I can relate to a lot of, to almost to every one of you, because when I started dating at 20, I was all about the hookup stage because I didn't have enough self-confidence, and I was just like, if 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 they're willing to date me, like I'm willing to take a shot. So I would I'd go on dates for like a 1 or 2 dates and then be done with them. But uh, who, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be everyone here, who has tried online dating compared to real life dating? Everyone, it's 2021.
I feel like I've done every dating app that has been developed. Every website that had a subscription. I tried it all. You know, I enjoyed them. In a lot of ways, I ended up meeting more male friends than actual dating partners or potential dating partners, which I'm cool with. You know, I'm always down for that. Like, I'm cool with that. But I didn't really have much success as far as meeting someone to actually date on the app until, kind of like I mentioned earlier, I didn't treat it like I was trying to find my husband on the app. Like, I genuinely was on there to have a good time, meet great people, of course, maintain my standards of what I wanted and how I wanted to be treated, but not hoping that I was going to find Prince Charming on an app. Like, if it happened, that would have been cool with me. But when it didn't happen, I wasn't sweating it either. And my feelings weren't hurt or anything of that nature. So I know when I tend to encourage people with disabilities to use apps and dating websites, that's always kind of my thing, because very similar to what Nathan was saying, we know what we're up against when it comes to society's perception of who we are as potential dating partners or partners to be in love with. And so knowing that, I feel like a way to protect ourselves is to go onto the apps, to have fun, to just build a genuine connection with someone. And then whatever happens from there is what happens. So yeah, that's like just one of the many tips that I give for people when they're using the apps. But yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question for you, Lolo? I'm curious. This is Nathan again. What made that shift for you personally, where you said, "Okay, I'm ready to stop looking for that husband figure"? Like, was there a specific event that created that for you?
I think it was a culmination of time that made me decide, like, I'm good off of like trying to force it. I kind of compared my dating life with my work life, which is, I don't know, weird or not, but anything that I've achieved that was a success in my work life was stuff that naturally fell into my lap. I didn't go searching for anything. I wasn't trying to find anything. It just fell into my lap. And I learned through work, when I tried to force something, it never worked out in my favor. So for me, I just treated it the same way in my dating life, where I was like, okay, I'm realizing the more I try to force it, the less fun I'm having, and the more hurt I'm feeling. And that way anymore. And it was like, I'm just gonna chill out. And I stopped putting people that are on the app on a pedestal. Like, I should be happy that they match with me, or I should be happy that they responded to my message, and just realize that, you know, they're a person too. There isn't anything special just because they decided to match with me. So just a culmination of all of that thinking made me be like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill out.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, Drew, what has your experience been like on the dating apps?
Oh man, how many hours do you have for this conversation to begin? I feel like as a queer man, the dating and hookup apps, and I'm gonna say hookup apps because they're very different things. The hookup apps are really, really geared towards sex right now, like very, 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 very sexualized. And when they realize you're disabled, they'll say stuff about your body not working and can you achieve this certain thing. It's very if you excuse me, if you have to tell them that you're disabled in any way and you can't do X, Y, Z, they're very quick to tell you, oh, then we shouldn't hang out, or oh, I shouldn't see you, or we shouldn't. So there's really not a lot of chance for connection per se if you're not able to do certain things. And back to kind of Lolo's point about just taking it easy and relaxing, I think for some of us with disabilities too, because we can't go out and we can't like public spaces prior to the pandemic, the apps take on these really overly important part of our lives because that's the way we connect. So I've learned to kind of do what Lolo said and just like take them with a grain of salt and like be playful on them. And like a lot of my profiles are like, I'll try to make it as PG as possible here, but one of my profiles is like, you know, touch my joystick, and it's playful in the fact that I'm a disabled person in a wheelchair, and I just try to play with it. But I'm aware that because so many of us can't go out and access the world like the average person could, go to a bar and do stuff, the apps take on a heightened importance that maybe they shouldn't need to. And I feel like I'm learning to do what Lolo said and just like, oh, whatever, it's an app, like no big deal. But I found I haven't had a lot of success on them because people will say stuff like, oh, what happened to you? Oh, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. And you're like, well, nothing happened. I kind of just wanted to invite you over for like a 2 a.m. romp. But now that you said this thing, I won't be inviting you over. Thanks so much. Bye. So yeah.
So, what about you, Fatima? Did you try online dating prior to your husband?
Yes, I tried before I met my husband. Yes. I was meeting with deaf people, friends, but most of people
would be on social media, and everyone was very felt invisible, like you can't see people. And at the same time, I felt like through an app, I felt very like it was a barrier. You're not really socializing with people. You're not getting to know people. You could be catfished. You don't know who they are. They put on this disguise, and you can message them and say something and nothing good happens at the end. So my perspective at the app, that it wasn't a good match for me, and I would like to meet people. I'm a very social person. I'm a very visual person, of course. And to see a deaf person and visually like see them, just because through text and messages, you can't see people's personalities. And just for those who date hearing people, that's something different, where they're considered normal people, but I'm not like them. And I don't like when people try to control me or have different expectations of me. And because I'm hard of hearing, I can speak a little bit, and I like to speak mostly through sign language because that's my native language. And so they don't have different expectations of me. So I feel like if I don't match with somebody because if they don't sign, they might just only talk, and then I feel very isolated. like I'm put in a cage and then I can't be free like a butterfly, where everyone is able to do what they can do. So from my perspective on dating, I'm more of a visual person. I do like meeting people. And so an app wouldn't match me very well, but that's my perspective and my opinion on the apps.
Yeah, well, thanks for that insight. That was very informative. It gave me a different perspective on disability and the dating apps. Nathan, have you tried dating apps? How'd that go?
Yeah, 100%. all day, every day. And here's the thing that I think ties all of us from my experience of listening to everybody together is it all starts with, if you're thinking about getting on apps or you're like, what's the thing? It all starts with our expectations, right? And I think everybody's, from their experience, has shown that once we start like letting go of the expectations a little bit, more starts to open up for us. I have not been successful on the apps. And honestly, when I think about dating apps, I think about barriers like this, similar to employment, right? I'm like, oh man, how do I disclose? Because this is a huge part of my life. And how do I do it? And I think what Drew said is crucial. And it's like, let's get him to write all of our profiles to be funny and engaging, like, and to play around with it, because it's often a very serious thing. So I think it goes back to expectations and then confidence, right? And I think some of that just comes with time. What I know about myself is I overcompensate for a lot of things. I used to do that a lot when I was younger. That's why I got into working out, to look good. And really, it was just covering what I saw at that time as an inadequacy. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back in using the apps too. We overcompensate for what we think the world wants to see instead of who we are at the core of the human that we are.
Mm-hmm. You said a lot of good things that like resonated with me, but one thing that you mentioned is, when do we disclose? Like, how do we do it? I know that when I was on a dating app, funny story, I actually met my fiance on Plenty of Fish. He's in a wheelchair, so like it was just funny. That's a whole different story. But when I disclosed my disability, I made a joke about it. I was like, yes, I'm really awesome. Like, Will's in a wheelchair. I will run you over because I had pictures of my wheelchair in my profile. So I'm curious, how did y'all go about disclosing that you had a disability, or did you not disclose at all? Because that's totally a valuable option.
I know for me, when I first started using the dating apps and dating profiles, I didn't show that I had a disability. I think it was very similar to what Nathan was saying before, was like this feeling of having to overcompensate in other ways because we believe we have some sort of flaw. So, it was that. And then when it got to the stage of like actually having a phone conversation with someone, and, they would say something like, oh, I love going to the gym like all the time. And they were like, how many times do you go to the gym? And I'm like, ooh, okay. So now we have to have this conversation, not to say we all know that people with disabilities are in the gym, but I'm not one of those people because my particular disability is muscular dystrophy. So I can't go to the gym or a lot faster than it naturally is supposed to be doing according to whatever doctor said, whatever the fuck. So either way, but and then I just got tired of having that conversation. And I realized that when I did have those conversations, it didn't stop them from wanting to talk to me. So then I told myself, well, why not just come out the gate, letting people know what's going on? So I have posted pictures of me with my wheelchair. And in the description, very similar to what Drew was saying, I made like a joke about my wheelchair, something about like, you know, who wants to ride alongside of me or something like that, like into the future or some shit like that. I don't know. I'm sorry. But you know, I just made a joke of it, and I still was getting an equal amount of matches and responses from people as I was when I didn't share that I had a disability. So for me, it was helpful when I shared it and made it a very public thing, because there was no awkward conversation that had to happen. And then if anyone, you know, wasn't paying attention to the pictures enough for whatever reason, it would be like, look at my page again, bro, and then let me know if you want to holler at me, like, and then just calling it the day. So it became a more enjoyable experience once I took the pressure off of myself of having to feel like there was this big reveal that I had to give, or that I was holding on to a secret, and, you know, manipulating somebody because I didn't tell them my full truth of who I was.
What about you, Fatima? How did you disclose your disability, or did you even disclose that you have a disability?
So I do tell people that I'm deaf. Of course, I do have a cochlear implant, so it's not a big deal, but you know, it's very up and down. Sometimes people reject me once they see that I'm deaf, and then other people because I'm not deaf enough. So I do get discriminated against because I do have my cochlear as well. It's very up and down. Um, you know, I just try to stay strong, and it's really important to, in my daily life, to remember that, you know, to be thankful of who you are and all the things you do have. So it's really about accepting yourself and showing people what you can do.
Awesome. What about, okay, Drew's already answered this question there. So funny story. Like I said, my fiance is also disabled, and I, throughout my dating life on apps, from like early 20s to late 20s, I swore up and down that I would never date another disabled person. I was like, to put it frankly, I would joke that I don't want to play bumper cars. So, and then like, here comes my fiance into the picture, and he has a disability, and he won me over. Obviously, it took a lot for him to win me over. So, what are y'all's perspective on dating other people with disabilities? Are you like me, or were you like me in that sense, or are you totally fine with you love who you love, basically?
I mean, I can tell you what it was like trying to hook up with my first and only disabled person. It was crap. It was horrible. I met a guy like way back in my college days. Met a guy in an app. We both discovered we were wheelchair users. I got excited by this because I had never been with another wheelchair user before, and I was also like, "How are we going to do this? Like, this is going to be I need help to get in bed. How are we going to do this?" And so he came over. We hung out, and I remember being so excited that there was another disabled person in my space. And I was like, "You're gonna get it. You're gonna understand all the things. It'll be great because we've been through the same ableism together. Like, it'll be awesome." And so we did the thing. We had sex, which, from what I remember, was not memorable or really that great on either of our parts. I was 22. So afterwards, I remember saying, I got so excited because I was like, he's cool, he's cute, like it was okay, like I'd like to see him again. So I called him about 2 days later and said like, oh, you're really cool, like I'd love to see you again. And I'm shy and awkward. I'm an awkward like flower. I have no game whatsoever. So I called him and said, I'd love to see you again. And he says, yeah, I don't know how to say this, but your disability is too much for me. And I remember being like, what? I don't think you're allowed to say that. You're also disabled. Like, what? I don't think, excuse me? And so I remember being really crushed because I was like, I expected this from an able-bodied person. I did not expect this from a disabled person. Like, so I don't know how to process this because if I can't get it with another disabled guy, what the hell am I supposed to do now? Like, so I was really, really hurt because I didn't realize that ableism doesn't discriminate and everybody has their own journey with it. And so I was so angry because I wanted this disabled guy. I wanted to have like a disabled meet cute, and I had not that at all. So yeah, my first and only experience with another disabled person was not so great.
What about does anybody else have any thoughts on it can also be on interabled couples, like have you experienced anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, so I think my view has always been a really practical one, honestly. And I was like thinking way out in the future, okay, how am I going to protect, provide, and perform as the man, right? That played a role. But also, what's going to happen if something with my disability causes me to not be able to even care for myself? So it's like playing the cards against will we be able to support each other if we have different needs, and what happens if we have those needs at the same time happen? So I used to think, okay, I'm only going to date somebody that is not disabled, but over time, the reality is, I think when you meet the person who's for you, it's not going to matter. Your energies are going to line up, and it's about more than what you can physically do.
Mm-hmm. I would completely agree with what Nathan said. I thought about it very practically as well. In my younger ages, even before my YouTube and everything else, I didn't know much about disability outside of my own needs. So just having that limited perspective at that time, I just thought to myself, I was like, well, I like to go out. I like to party. I like to go here. I like to go there. And anytime that I've gone somewhere with somebody else, with friends, and it wasn't accessible, my homeboys would just pick me up and carry me up the stairs, and there would be no limitations to anything. So I thought to myself, well, when I'm dating, that means I have to date an able-bodied person, because what if we go out somewhere and it's not accessible? I need him to carry me up these stairs so we can have a good time. So that was just my natural way of thinking was, I don't have any other choice. I have to date somebody who's able-bodied. But the more that I've learned about disability and the variation of disability that exists, I have been open to the possibility of dating someone with a disability, because now I'm thinking in a different way. I'm like, oh, well, I'm working to get this money. So if I get enough money and my man has enough money and we're both disabled, then we really ain't gonna have no limitations, because we could just hire people to help us out, and then we could just love on each other the way we want to love on each other. So I just been thinking of all kinds of ways to make it happen. But either way, I agree totally with Nathan. Like, it doesn't matter able-bodied or not. Like, if you click with someone and that is supposed to be your person, then everything else will work itself out.
And I think Drew made his story of something like really important, right? Just because we have disabilities, guess what? We're human and we can be assholes too.
Yeah, exactly. And and just listening to what Lola said, like I think, oh, I had a really good thought and I lost it now. But just talking about, the thought of wanting to be with an able-bodied person and having to be with somebody who can carry you. And I thought that for a long time. I was like, oh, I only want to date muscular dudes or mess around with muscular guys because I need all this help and I need all this. So I'm only going to be with an able-bodied guy, which is really kind of, an ableist thought process of it's really problematic because what if you do meet the hottest disabled person in the world? I mean, it's me, so don't worry about that. But what if you do meet a really hot disabled person and you are also disabled and you want to go on dates? You're taking a whole population of people that could get you out of the running, which is a really sad thing.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. And I didn't even realize it until I started learning more about disability and getting older, like how backwards, that was to think that way. And on the flip side, how unfair to a degree it is for me to have wanted to put all of that responsibility on whoever my partner was going to be in my life, that he has to not only be my husband and provider, but he's also got to be my caregiver, my lift man, my driver, my this, my that. And that's not fair, necessarily. People want to be able to come into relationships feeling like they're equally giving to each other. And not to say that someone who does have a husband or a wife that is supporting them in those ways, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but to go into it having the expectation that this person is supposed to do those things for me isn't fair either. So I've learned a lot, since getting it, for sure.
I think to quickly piggyback on that, because I really like what you said there. I think that a lot of my fear about dating somebody, whether they're disabled or not, and realizing that they would have to provide care is how much should I show them? How much should I tell them? How much before they run away and realize, oh my God, your disability is too much, I can't do it. And so I remember so many times in my youth, because I'm an old man now, I remember I remember not telling them on the apps and then having them come over and be like, oh, you didn't say you were in a wheelchair, whoa, shocker. And I would be like, oh, I didn't tell you because I wanted to see what you thought. And so my biggest worry is about if I get into a relationship with somebody, whether they're able-bodied or disabled, how do we avoid resentment and how do we avoid you need too much? And so that's part of the reason why I've stayed single, because I'm I know how to ask for what my needs are to an attendant or a care worker. I have no idea how to ask for my needs to somebody that would want to care for me as a human. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. We're gonna get into the topic of caregiving in a second, and caregiving in a relationship in a second. But I want to hear Fatima's perspective on dating as an interable couple or as both people have a disability. What is your perspective on that?
So when everyone was talking about how, people will reject people if they have a disability, I've had a few experiences with that. For me as a deaf person, I can't just go ahead and socialize in a setting with hearing people because some have accents. And I remember the other day I went to a fast food restaurant and I used to date a hearing guy. And when I wanted to order something through the drive-through, it seemed like he would get what he want for food and then hope that, we would get into the restaurant or fast food place. So whatever, the fast food place. And when I would start talking, my hearing boyfriend would just kind of be like, oh, forget it. I got this. I'll do this for you. And just kept pushing me off to the side. He didn't give me any chance to stand up for myself. He didn't give me a chance to order or be an independent woman, you know what I mean? And that's how I felt at that time. Like, we've been oppressed as deaf people because, you know, they think I can't do all these different things. And I felt like that I had to drop that. And, you know, I dumped that guy. And then I started to feel independent, and I learned that I could write back and forth, especially during COVID. Oh, wow. I remember I was with my husband and we went out to eat, and there were people who are all wearing masks and trying to talk. And I told them I had to write. And, you know, people were like, oh, I don't have time to read. I don't have time. And I actually had to leave the restaurant. It wasn't fair, you know, because I do want to get what I want, you know, and I am a customer, and it's just very simple. I just wanted to give my order and leave. But, you know, people were fed up, and, you know, sometimes people feel that they can oppress deaf people because, you know, we're not able to do certain things. So, you know, yes, I may be deaf, but that doesn't mean that I can't do all of those things the same things you can do, you know? So that's something that ableism shows. You know, I can write back and forth. We have phones. You know, I can type my message. We can write notes. And people have their phones on them all the time. So people who have disabilities, you know, maybe they haven't had those experiences yet, you know, but those are people who haven't been in somebody's shoes before, and they go ahead and jump and put us in these boxes and just assume things about us.
I'm muted. Sorry, I'm back. I like how you brought up different ways that people can accommodate people that are deaf by like using their phone. Like, there's so many. It's 2021. There's so many different devices that we can use that people take for granted that they don't realize they could really benefit when it comes to communication with disabled people. So we're gonna change topics now, and we're gonna jump into relationships. And one of the key things that I've or one of the themes that I'm hearing that kind of resonated with me is caregiving, and that's caregiving in the relationship. And as you probably all know, Dr. Phillips famously stated that caregiving, that 100% of relationships that involve caregiving fail. I was curious to get y'all's perspective on this, and start the conversation about caregiving in a relationship. So whoever wants to jump in.
Dr. Bill sucks is what you need to know about that. And also, Dr. Bill sucks. And the person that created the 100 by 100 campaign is Shane Burka. He's awesome. You should follow all his channels because he's great. But aside from that weird shout out, the longest relationship I have with someone sexually is my sex worker, and we pre-COVID have worked together we've built a really comfortable relationship, and I had to teach him how to use my sling and how to use some of my disability device, like how to get me out of my chair, how to get me into bed, how to undress and redress me after our sessions. So, you know, I was really afraid to tell him what I needed at first, because I was like, oh my God, what if you see too much? Like, what if this is too scary? And so, but once he started doing it, he will say things to me like, I like being able to help you with this. I like being able to help you because I know then we can do what we're going to do. And I am always afraid to tell somebody that I'm interested in the level of my care, because it's quite extensive. And like, what if I need to use the bathroom? What if like I need help and I don't want to call my attendant care worker in the middle of my sex session? So these are all things that I think about a lot, but being able to say to my sex worker, like, this is what I need, this is what I require from you. And maybe it's different because we have a transactional relationship where I, pay him to be there. But in our relationship together, like, we become friends, and I'm able to, and so it doesn't scare me so much anymore. But I still, when I meet a new person that I'm interested in, no matter who they are, no matter how comfortable I am being a disabled person, I am constantly worried about the level of my care and them finding out how much care I have. I mean, we always talk about, when do we disclose disability? I think so many people will say on the apps, like, oh, you're disabled, it's no big deal. But then they enter your life and see the level of disability that you require, and they go, oh, fuck, I didn't realize that you were like really that disabled. And so I think there's layers of disclosure we have to look at. Like, I can tell you I'm disabled, and you could say, oh, that's cool, as part of, like, to be PC and to be like, cool. You could tell, yeah, your disability is no problem. But then when I tell you I need XYZ, you might go, oh yeah, I didn't realize you were one of those kind of disabled people. So, like, I think we need to look at the layers of, like, how much do you want to share? And, like, so I think we need to start asking our dates, like, hey, what are your thoughts on ableism? Like, hey, what is some internalized ableism you have that we could unpack together? Like, maybe not on the first date, but maybe on, like, date 3, you could be like, so hey, so what are your thoughts on this? If I asked you to, like, come over sometime and show you this, would you be scared? And let them give you, like, a real answer so that we could have that conversation about caregiving. Because I think it's so much more than just, yeah, I'll take care of you. There's so many more layers to it.
Does anybody else want to go there?
I think exactly what Drew said was really, really dope. Everything that he said was very insightful, because that's very true. It was like, there's levels to us disclosing, the levels of our disability and what it means to care for us and those kind of things. In my particular situation, I would say, pretty independent with my care. So what I found is, when I date someone, they tend to, it's one of two things happen. They either overcompensate trying to help me to prove to me that they like me for who I am, or because I am as independent as I am, they are completely dismissive of times where I actually really need their help of things. And that's when kind of like that catch-22 happens, right? Where you want to be respected as an independent person, but then when you do ask for help, you don't want to be dismissed either. And then there's the times where they're like, oh, well, you don't really need this help. I've seen you do it before. And it's like, well, today I'm not feeling it today. My energy is low today. I can't do it. Like, help me with this. I'm already having to do X, Y, and Z things way over here. Or, they'll become completely impatient. And it's like, come on, now we were going shopping, you would hurry up. And it's like, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me, And it's like, it could be condescending at times, and it can be, very annoying in a lot of ways, but it's one of those things where you have to find that fine line between, so, like, I mean, okay, what I'm going to say sounds probably kind of weird, but it's almost like finding someone who is that family member that really gets you. Like, they know when you need something, they know when you've got it under control, and then they know if you're asking that you really need their help. And finding that kind of love from someone you may not know off top, so I hope that all makes sense. But so that had just been my personal experience before. So yeah.
And I think it's just also our own relationship with asking for help. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, we're taught that it's a bad thing and it makes us weak. So we already have the story a lot of times, not everybody, but we have the story that, okay, we have all these challenges. So I don't want to ask for help. And again, we've mentioned it several times. I agree. It's overcompensate. We want to overcompensate to try and mask the things that may be going on. We could need all the help in the world, but we will do everything, at least in my experience, to not have to ask for the help. And it comes from a lot of different, first, it comes from what's my story I'm telling about myself when I ask for help. And then, am I going, like, what's the response? And it goes back to, if I ask for help, am I going to be rejected? And how often do any of us, we don't want to be rejected, and we know what that feels like. So let's not even have that be a chance.
I keep not hitting the mute button. Fatima, do you have any perspective on being taken care of in a relationship or anything like that?
Caregiving is something that I think about a lot every day, our everyday life. Like, for example, most of us are very independent. Deaf people in general, I can do everything myself. So I feel that I don't want anyone taking care of me. I feel like I can take care of myself. At the beginning with a relationship, there's a lot of expectations that happen. So you cannot expect people, to do exactly what you want and walk on your own shoes. You have to let them be who they are and allow them to be who they are. We're always making mistakes. Also, it's like life. We're learning every day new things. For example, my father always says that when I was young growing up, you have to do it yourself. You can depend on other people. You have to show the world that you can do it. And you cannot show that weakness either. You have to keep going and moving on forward and get it done. You have to fight for it also, for what you want and your desires and choices. So it's interesting, the discussion that we're having right now and about caregiving. I'm a very independent person also, and also I know a lot of people that are very independent also too. So we, as a group of my friends, my deaf friends, we go together, we go out to restaurants, and people are conversing with us, and I can hear some, and I can lip read also. So I like to respond myself, and my friends, allow it to happen. We just don't get involved into it, and we just ugly out for ourselves, be independent, and learn from the experience at the moment. And if the person is deaf, or maybe they're learning how to communicate with other people, we just don't expect anything that's going to happen easily when we're with hearing people. Or we just learn it also. Learn their culture, what they're sensitive to, their everyday lives. We just don't want to. We want to understand them and not depend on the person that is sitting next to you. My deaf friends and I, we have a lot of friends, and we have many experiences together. And we'll have our different voices and our different opinion and perspectives, and we learn something new every day with each other, and we share. I just really don't care that much people taking care of myself. I really do it myself. I had to do it. And I have no problem asking for help either. I'm not afraid of doing that. That's what I learned from the deaf community, that we can help each other and also be independent at the same time. We help each other, like I said before.
That's awesome. So we have one last question that I wanted to get everybody's opinion on, and particularly Fatima, since she's the only one that is married out of this group. We have about 5 minutes to answer this question, and then we're gonna move to the question and answer. But it seems to be that everybody's when you're dating and you get into relationships, the overall goal is to become married, and marriage is a kind of a weird topic related to disability, because there's so much that pertains to that. What as far as like losing benefits and things like that, what is your perspective on marriage and disability, Fatima? And was there any negative experiences that you had when deciding to become married? If that makes sense. I kind of rambled.
Sorry, if you're asking me personally, do you mind clarifying that? The interpreter was freezing a little bit and I had a hard time. I was missing some few things. So do you mind saying that one more time?
So did you encounter any struggles related to your specific disability when it came to getting married, like the actual marriage itself?
I mean, of course, in-laws, everyone has the same problem with in-laws, because, no one's perfect, and, I'm no different. Like, as far as like in-laws go, like family-wise, I feel like the black sheep. So of course, as far as family goes, they speak their native language, and English is the common language around. So that's the biggest struggle, trying to communicate with my husband's side of the family. And it seems like they're not sure how to communicate with a deaf person. If I speak English, well, should I speak English? What's considered normal? Because I don't know if they'll understand the words I'm using. If I'm using slang or something, they might not understand. So that's one hard thing. There's a language barrier, and that's the one challenge in my marriage, as well as both me and my husband are hard of hearing, and both of us we sign in front of everyone, and we can sign and it goes right over people's heads. They don't understand anything. They try to watch and they don't understand. They might, like, hearing people might not even include us with what they're saying. So we'll just go ahead and sign, and people won't understand. And it's almost like a secret language that we have, and we might pick on other people and we make fun of other people, and nobody will know what we're talking about. And in our marriage, it goes very well, but there's that one language barrier with, the in-laws and family. So that's one of the biggest struggle in our daily lives, that, we're trying to communicate with family all the time as best as they can. And, sometimes they choose to shut us out, and that's fine. But of course, the parents do love us, and, we already know that, but I'm not really close with my brothers and sisters. And, everything is very touch and go. Like, how are you doing? I'm good. Great. It's just very simple language things because of that barrier. And, I don't have deaf family. My friends, they're all deaf, and we socialize. And, I wish I had that in my family, and in my marriage, life's perfect and it's great. And my friends and family my friends will socialize with me, and we have that in common between me and my husband and my friend. But of course, we're always going to have challenges with the in-laws. So
yeah, that's I wasn't even thinking about the whole in-law situation. So you've shown me a different a different side to marriage. Does anybody else have any thoughts on marriage and disability that they want to share?
I think it's really unfortunate that in the UK, Canada, the US, and Australia, if you were to move in with a partner, not even get married, just consider moving in your own benefits, you will either have them combined and lose a good portion of them or lose them altogether. I think it's really something that makes a lot of us think, well, I'm going to be alone forever because I simply can't even have the opportunity to move in with somebody and see what would work because I'll lose my benefits. So I'm like, unless all of us are all a good job and get like a huge glow up, which would be amazing. Someone hire us to do all of that, please. But if you're not able to, like, there's no way that you can afford it. And then, if you are with a partner that is making more money, the resentment comes in again because they then become, technically, according to the state and the government, they become your caregiver. And then, like, how do you build a relationship on that? So I think when we talk about marriage equality, generally we tend to forget this part. And so when I see LGBTQ outlets talking about marriage equality, I'm like, that's great. I'm awesome that like all the LGBTQ people can get married. That's amazing. But there's a whole other side of that we're missing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we have about 10 minutes to answer some Q&A, and we have kind of a lot. So I'm gonna choose a few, and a lot of it has to do. We've got a lot of questions about self-confidence and self-acceptance. And people want to know if you have any tips for others? And I know that Drew, you created the hashtag disabled bodies are hot, kind of around this topic. Does anyone have any tips on how to gain self-confidence and accept yourself as a person with a disability?
Yeah, I do. I have a tip for those people. I'm generally speaking, not deaf, but generally speaking, just accept who you are. That's my simple answer. Accept who you are. Don't change who you are. Don't try to match other people. Accept yourself, and accepting yourself can be tough. Sometimes you can feel like people, like you look at yourself and you look at other people and you want to be like them. You want to be just like them. But remember, the world is not 100% perfect. And you think one person is 100% perfect, they have everything, I doubt it. Also, there's 99% and then the 1%, but you have to accept you for you. And that's just my one tip. Just think about, what you can do, like exactly what you can, like all the things you can do. 99% is good, 1%, is perfect or not perfect. We are all human, and we have to accept ourselves, have self-confidence, and just remember, nobody's perfect. Keep that in the back of your head. And, people might appear the way they are, and if people don't accept you, that's too bad, move on. There's other people who do love you exactly who you are. And there's so many fish in the sea. So there's plenty of people who will accept you. And for those people, it's their loss. That's my one tip.
Exactly, Fatima. I totally agree with your tips and your advice. Does anybody else have any advice?
Well, I wanted to just chime in and 100% agree with Fatima, where a lot of the times our self-confidence, when it's not at the level we would like it to be, is because we're comparing it to somebody else. And a lot of times the perception of who we think those people are is completely wrong of who they are. I think a way to kind of combat those feelings is knowing and learning to love who you are as you are, because you are uniquely made. And that's something that's really, really dope. It's really, really dope to be one of one, and owning that and knowing that regardless of any past experience or trauma or anything that you've gone through, that has already happened, and you are in control of, or you can be in control as best as possible of what happens to you moving forward. Meaning what we do, how we react, how we behave, all of those things are going to have a natural, way of coming back to us. So if we put out the positivity, we're going to get the positivity back. If we have fun and we enjoy our lives, people are going to see that too, and they're going to gravitate to that joy and that fun and that light that you have within inside of you. Disability and living with the disability is very challenging, but everyone has their challenges in their life, no matter what it may look like to you. So the more you complain, the more you dwell in a negative energy, people can feel that coming off of you. People can feel when you're being disingenuous because you just want to be a part of something and not really being your true authentic self, and just seeing if you match with somebody else, friend, lover, or otherwise. So just learning to love yourself in that way. I'm a huge, huge fan of affirmations. So I have affirmations all over my house, literally all over my house, in my phone, in my bathroom, like they are everywhere. And I read those and I see those things constantly. I'm a big vision board person. So I have vision boards all over my place as well. I just have all kinds of stuff all over my place. But those kind of things have really helped me. Self-help books have really helped. Naturally finding people that I rock with, that I don't have to feel like I'm forcing a relationship with, helps, all of that matters. And that would probably be my tips for self-confidence and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
I totally agree with what Lolo said there. I have a different take on it a little bit. I think that what I'm, especially right now, because COVID is going on for way too long and it's been affecting all of our self-confidence, I'm leaning into being weird and just being my weird. You know how like when you were a kid and you were just weird and you liked weird stuff and you didn't care what anybody said about the thing you liked, and it was the thing you liked and it didn't matter. And so I'm trying to remember, like, just be a weirdo and like just be cool with that part of yourself, and like don't just lean into not so much the self-confidence part, but like the awkward, like uncomfortable kid that you were when you were like 8 or 9. Lean into that person again and be like, what are the things that you liked when you were 8 or 9, and what are the things that you liked when you were young that you didn't give a shit if anybody cared about or not? Go back to that space and like try not to worry about the self-confidence piece, because like people say to me all the time in what I do, oh Drew, you're so self-confident, you made the disabled people are hot hashtag, like wow, it's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I made that because I was like insecure and weird, not because I have confidence. And so I think talking about like the weirdness parts of ourselves and how our weirdness interplays with our disability, and like showing that, and also talking about the parts of ourselves that are not confident and showing that to disabled people, I think is important, because we've been given these messages of you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to overcome, you're supposed to rise above, and to do that you have to be confident. And I think, why can't we go the other way for a minute, for a hot second, and just talk about how we feel insecure, like self-aware, and how it sucks? Let's talk about that together so that we can bring space to that, and then maybe from that confidence will come.
You know, I cannot hop right back in. I 100% agree with Drew on that piece of it too, because one of the things that did help me with my confidence is when I started my YouTube channel and I was making like all these fun videos of who I am and everything else. That was fun and great, but it wasn't until I shared the times where I was feeling insecure, the things I didn't like about myself, the stuff that I was afraid of because I was a person with a disability, the times I cried on camera and still posted it. Like all of those things helped me be confident, because at that point it was like, I am being my fully faceted person and humanness. And if people rock with it, that's amazing. And if they don't, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because I've already put it out there. There's nothing you can say to me about who I am because I've put it out there. So I 100% agree with Drew that we have to also let go of always feeling like we have to be strong. We have to be these people all the time. We're such overcomers with such inspiration and all this other stuff. No, like, I can be a bitch. I'm, you know what I mean? I feel insecure.
Can you please put that on a shirt and I'll wear it with pride?
I love it. You know, but that's the truth. And I feel like as people with disabilities, we're allowed to be multifaceted in that way. We're allowed to show all those versions of ourselves and it be okay to do so. But yeah, so I just wanted to just chime in and agree with Drew on that one 100%. Like you hit the nail on the head for sure.
And here's what happens when you allow yourself to do that. When you have the courage to step out and show that part of yourself to you, whatever your world is, right? It allows people who don't live your experience to see more of the human that is you. Like, I think showing those parts allows for more of our humanness to show, and we're not just this inspiration or this overcomer like everybody said. But one thing that I have found supportive is questioning my emotions and coming to an understanding of,
yes,
this is how I'm feeling. And that takes work. And something that helped with that is getting coaching or getting therapy. Like, I think we think that that's a bad thing. And I know that that's not available to everyone, but if it's available to you, that's not a negative thing to be in therapy. I mean, that will make you more confident than you realize.
If only we had more disabled therapists though. Like I've been to therapy and it's great and I love that it's there, but I wish that I rolled into my power chair one day and hey, guess what? The therapist rolled in their power chair too. And we could like talk about being disabled in therapy together. Like it's so rare that happens. And so like, I just wish that there was more disabled therapists like out there. And the person that says they're a disabled therapist, I see you in the thing. Cool, yay. But I just wish there was more of that because I think you're right. I think talking about this stuff is hard. But what I love about the community stuff like this and with Diversability and with like stuff like Clubhouse now, I mean, we don't really need to go to a therapist and spend $100. We can have a whole chat room about how we feel insecure and weird as disabled people together.
Absolutely. In therapy, you know, there's a lot of really great, I use a therapist from a website called betterhelp.com. And although as a monthly subscription, it can be considered very pricey, but the monthly subscription is usually as much as only one session you get with your therapist. But on BetterHelp, you can schedule as many sessions as you want. You can text your therapist at any day, time, or night. You can send voice notes if it's too much to text. They send you things that you can work on as far as like worksheets and stuff like that. So that's what I've been able to use, especially during the pandemic, since we can't like go out and, you know, go inside offices and stuff like that. But so I just use an online person, and there's video sessions or audio sessions, depending on whatever kind you want. But it's called betterhelp.com. If anyone is interested, I do also have a discount code for anyone who is interested. Just DM me on Instagram and I'll shoot you the link, because I've been really advocating for that, as well as for people with disabilities to be able to find therapy during this time. And when you sign up, there's like a whole questionnaire of what you need, what you like. And if you don't like that therapist, you get to choose another one. So it's amazing.
Well, guys, we're about almost 5 minutes over time. But closing out, I want to, before we sign off, I want to thank our 4 panelists and our interpreters for being a part of this event. And we want to thank all of our audience members for buying a ticket or donating funds so that everyone could attend. And if you want to, I know there's a lot of questions that didn't get answered because this topic is so, we could talk about this topic for hours. If you want to continue tonight's conversation, please join our online community. It'll be in the chat. It's bit.ly/Diversability Community. And again, thank you all for joining in. I had fun moderating this event. Check back for more Diversability Unplugged events in the future.
All right, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Winnie, for bringing us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.